From your first breath, you are told that bringing a child into this world is the ultimate expression of love. But evaluating the mechanics of that choice reveals a different reality. It is a decision made for the benefit of the Creator at the permanent expense of an unconsenting recipient. Every cultural tradition and evolutionary impulse you possess is designed to guarantee reproduction. It is a biological mandate that operates in the background of your consciousness, demanding you follow the script without questioning the cost. There is a rigorous philosophical framework that strips away this comfort. It is an argument so unsettling that most people instinctively recoil, preferring the safety of the illusion over the weight of the logic. We are here to look directly at that logic. If you possess the intellectual courage to evaluate a concept based on its merits rather than its popularity, drop "I seek the truth" in the comments right now. Stepping into this framework requires you to abandon the romanticized ideals of legacy and name. You are trading a shared social fiction for a cold assessment of human outcomes. The modern world is structured around the blind pursuit of legacy. We are trained to view the continuation of a family line as a self-evident good, rarely pausing to calculate the friction that life actually entails. Philosopher David Benatar removed the sentimentality. He reached a conclusion that challenges the very core of human activity, that creating new life is a moral error. This argument rests on the specific asymmetry of pain and pleasure. Within existence, the presence of pain is a negative outcome, while the presence of pleasure is a positive one. This is the baseline we all recognize. But the equation shifts when we look at non-existence. For someone who is never born, the absence of pain is an undeniable benefit. However, the absence of pleasure is simply neutral. There is no existing person to be deprived of that joy. By this logic, the state of non-existence is mathematically superior to the risks of birth. These deductions are not born from a dark mood or internet pessimism. They are the result of applying consistent ethical rules to the act of creation. Stripping away the emotional noise reveals a logical foundation that is difficult to dismantle. Once the math of suffering is laid bare, the decision to replicate loses its moral shielding. Existence is defined by friction. Even a privileged life is subject to decay, the inevitable loss of loved ones, and the slow decline of the body. Knowing that this world is a machine for creating struggle, it takes a significant amount of ego to decide that another person must be forced to endure it, just to satisfy your own desire for a miniature version of yourself. That ego is most visible when parents knowingly pass on hereditary conditions or cycle through generational trauma. They prioritize their drive to replicate over the lived experience of the child who will bear the consequences. This points to the central ethical failure, the impossibility of consent. You are forcing a consciousness into a high-stakes environment where they never asked to participate and from which there is no easy exit. This reframes the gift of life. It is an act that serves the emotional needs of the parent, while the child is left to manage the inevitable debt of existence. Most people react to these ideas with an immediate, visceral anger. It is a defense mechanism triggered by the brain's most primitive sectors. They lash out because this logic threatens the narrative that gives their biological life meaning. If reproduction isn't a sacred duty, they are forced to confront the randomness of their own presence here. However, the disciplined mind looks at these flaws without needing to shout them down. It evaluates the system with the same detachment one might use to study a failing engine. Recognizing the systemic cost of life leads to a specific exercise of agency: refusal. It is the moment you choose to break the biological chain. Choosing not to replicate is a deliberate act of withdrawing your participation from a rigged game. It is the pivot from biological servant to an intentional agent. This is the beginning of true autonomy. You are waking up from the automated social directives that occupy the time and energy of the masses. By refusing the reproductive mandate, you achieve a rare level of mastery over instinct. You are no longer a passenger in your own evolution. You are the one deciding which paths are worth taking. This refusal allows for a life of total intentionality. By removing the enormous material and emotional tax of raising the next generation, you reclaim your focus and your resources for your own objectives. You're free to evaluate your path based on logic, rather than the animal drive to scatter your DNA. Your energy becomes yours to direct. Drop "I break the chain" in the comments to declare your independence. When you are no longer serving a biological script, you are finally free to build an empire of your own design. The herd will always choose the comfort of the cycle. But by embracing these truths, you separate yourself through clarity of purpose. You have replaced a biological burden with a sovereign's will.